Hi there, Dr. Node here. And meditation is quite possibly the most important and valuable tool that anyone can utilize in order to help themselves with quite literally any problem they may be facing. It's the most powerful, fundamental, foundational practice one can hope to develop. And out of meditation, all other practices and activities will become more skillful as well as more fulfilling. I refer to meditation as the practice of all practices. It's commonly referred to as a practice because it's something that one consciously sets aside time for in order to train for something else. Okay, so in this way, it's just like practicing for a sport. When one practices for a certain sport, a time of day is often set aside to perform activities that are specifically designed to enhance one's ability to compete in the sport. This training is not the sport. And much of a practice session is often dedicated to activities that are actually not playing the sport at all. Things like agility drills, strength training, concentrating efforts on a specific movement that might be relevant to that sport. Likewise, meditation is training for thinking or mindfulness. Meditation is not thinking. It is quite different from thinking, and though its practice gives us keen insight into how our mind operates, gives us the ability to focus our thoughts, become calmer, and enter into states where our mind is not racing, and also gives us the ability to distinguish between our thinking and our emotions. Meditation in and of itself as a practice is not thinking. It is an activity that helps us to learn and develop in our thinking as well as in our emotions and other internal experiences. So meditation does all this by bringing our attention into the present moment and simply inviting us to be aware. In fact, it might be accurate to describe meditation as simply the practice of awareness, which is commonly the definition that meditation practitioners will use to describe meditation. It teaches us how to become aware of our thoughts and our emotions, and as well as our body sensations in the present moment, without judgment, without putting any meaning on anything, simply being aware of what is right now. Meditation invites us to open ourselves to the experience of right now, whatever that experience may be. With continued practice, the constant motion of our thoughts, the confusion of our emotions, what we're feeling, and any disconnect that we might have from our physical sensations, what our body is actually experiencing, becomes calmer, clearer, and more present in our awareness. And the reason that I refer to meditation as the practice of all practices is because this increased state of awareness inherently impacts all other aspects of our lives. Our increased awareness is not limited to any specific area of our life, but rather helps us see more clearly the entirety of our lives. As we begin to see our lives more clearly, our options and choices and our ability to respond and participate in life also changes. Very simply, our awareness as our awareness increases, our ability to respond versus react to life also increases. So this idea of reaction versus response, it is ultimately our thoughts that control all of our actions. And the more we become aware of how our thoughts are influenced by emotional states and physical states, the more control we develop over our behaviors. We gain the ability to respond to our environment rather than react to it. So let's look at an example of something that nearly everyone will be able to relate to: a passionate argument with a loved one, so a spouse or significant other, maybe a best friend, sister, brother, mother, father. And imagine that you are in a heated discussion with this person. It might not be a stretch for you to imagine that. And all of a sudden they say something and you go to a 10. Before even knowing what's happening, you've put your foot in your mouth, you've attacked this other person, you have chose the weakest part of their personality or their self-esteem to rip into in an attempt to get an upper hand. And we all know how conversations or arguments like this are likely to end. And the key point here is how this type of reaction is a complete loss of control. Now, this also happens when we have a stressful day and all of a sudden you find yourself in a fast food drive-thru ordering comfort food. Or when we shut down, when we feel so overwhelmed that our reaction is to shut down and we find ourselves unable to drive ourselves to the gym or make ourselves dinner or do other household chores. And the common denominator with all of this is a loss of control and the inability to choose the behavior that we truly and genuinely want for ourselves. At a foundational level, this stems from a lack of awareness of the thoughts and emotions that are occurring in the moment. It's a disconnect from the thoughts that are leading to a given action, or from the emotions that are leading to a thought that then is leading to an action. So if we take the example of an intimate argument, and imagine that during that argument, the other person says that thing that normally triggers you intensely, but instead of instantly attacking them, you have an awareness of being triggered. You actually acknowledge and are aware of your emotions that intensified considerably in that moment, that you have an awareness of your breathing and heartbeat quickening. And you even have maybe an awareness of those vicious attack thoughts that are forming in your mind before they're uttered. Now, in that moment, with that awareness, you become one step closer to making a different choice from attacking the other person. Now, you might still attack them, okay? And maybe maybe you're able to sit with that awareness for a little bit longer and actually see and acknowledge that you have different choices of how to respond. So either way, whether you end up attacking that person or not, the awareness that you have of being triggered, the emotions and the thoughts that are connected with that triggering in that moment opens up more space for responding to occur. So, and it might be super hard to imagine that type of control in an argument such as that. But can you imagine having this type of awareness of your emotional state and how it influences your thoughts to go to the fast food restaurant, right? Influences your behavior in that way, your craving for comfort food, and how simply the idea of a different choice, that awareness that a different choice could exist, could drastically change the outcome. And it's this power of awareness that gives us an incredible amount of choice and power in changing our behaviors from moment to moment, day to day. And meditation is the training in that skill, okay, that makes that type of change in our lives possible. So just a short note on spirituality and meditation. I know meditation is often aligned or thought of as being aligned with certain Eastern philosophies or spiritual traditions. And the fact of the matter is that meditation is a universal practice that's championed by many wisdom traditions. Historically, even Christianity has practiced and taught meditation and still does in the monastic traditions as well as the Near Eastern mystic traditions. And of course, the Eastern traditions place a high degree of emphasis and importance on meditation, but this emphasis in no way is synonymous or affirming of a given belief system. Meditation is so widely practiced among spiritual traditions because it is a learning of how not to be controlled by the ego self. Learning how to be presently aware teaches us how to step away from worldly impulses and to not place so much importance on the meanings that we put on things, meanings that are often connected with past regrets and resentments, or future anxieties and desires. So no matter what religious background we come from, the experience of God is always in the now, without historical reference or future projection. All else is simply an analysis and an interpretation. So I also want to make a small side note on trauma. Stored trauma within the body may create a scenario where the practice of meditation is incredibly difficult for an individual to utilize in a way where they would reasonably expect rapid growth on their own. The reason for this may be tied to how the nervous system is dysregulated, creating an actual physiological reactionary state that may be very difficult to overcome. So meditation, while still a foundational practice in these types of situations, may need additional guidance. And this is no different than an injured athlete needing special training from a coach or a trainer to regain their regular play. So